Ren. Good evening and welcome, world, on the Commissioner Corner podcast. My name is Joe Cruz, one half of the Commissioner Corner podcast here on the Cruise Control Podcast Network.
Yo, it's your boy BG, Mr. LES Express. You know, we here at the Commissioner's Corner podcast. We want to give a big shout out to Red Bull, man, for always supporting us. And just want to shout them out before the show even starts. Yo, Joe, introduce your boy, man. He's here, big time.
We got big time Eric Newman. We have the producer, the director, the content creator. There's so many titles for this young man here. I call him young man because I've seen him grow through this industry, through basketball, through the lenses of New York City basketball, and now to the point where he's putting content on the world, eyeballs on certain interests and topics that are so dope. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Eric Newman to the show. Eric, what's going on, brother?
Gentlemen, pleasure. If I knew when this week started, I'd be closing it with the Commissioner's Corner and a New York City snowstorm. I'd say that's pretty good. Cheers to that.
Cheers to happy holidays. It's glad to have you back. Eric's it's a pleasure to have you. I know you've been running around doing a lot of different stuff. I just want to let the world know that Eric's been around basketball for almost 15 years.
Yes, sir.
His leadership through his work with Nike basketball, through Game 7, through all the different pillars of NYC basketball, making the mecca, to taking that opportunity and bringing it to lifestyle, culture, movies, documentaries, features. So right into it, Eric, real quick. Just having that experience behind you, having the NYC being the mecca basketball, and you taking all that in. Was that the experience you needed to get to where you at right now, or there were some certain steps you wanted to get through first before your ultimate decision of becoming a producer?
You know, you've got me in that hot tub time machine now, thinking about all the years that all the events, all the camps, all the clinics, and I'm trying to flash back to when we first met and hearing about what you guys built. And
it might have been the World Basketball Festival. Remember?
Yeah, I think it was probably before. Before. Like, you know, I'm so, you know, to for a little context to answer your question, I'm so lucky that I had those experiences. Like my goal, you know, my younger days, not to date myself, but yeah, I've been around a minute, and you know, I'm 42 years old. So as a young aspiring coach who also had like this creative itch, and, you know, originally everyone thought I was going to be a broadcaster because I was a sports nut and I was into all that media and production and stuff. But the experiences in the space that we met is where like everything meshed together, and I got to work with great people, and I got to lead exciting programs, and I got to work, you know, the original Chain Link, which was part of the whole Dime 94 by 50 crew before Game 7 was created. And then, you know, obviously working with Nike on so many things, and really seeing the convergence of basketball and the new digital media landscape. And, you know, been reflecting on a lot for a variety of reasons as we close the year. And last week, I don't know if you saw it on social or all, but it was a year removed to the day since we filmed our All the Smoke episode with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
I don't mean to jump ahead to that stuff, but it's just an example of like the magic of the journey. And there's like pictures that were posted I never saw before. And I'm in there with Stack, with Matt, with Kobe. And there's one picture where I'm showing Kobe my phone. May he rest in peace. And what I'm showing him on my phone, guys, and Joe, you'll remember this because I think you were there that day. I'm showing him a picture of he and I running the Nike Chain Link clinic at Rucker from World Basketball Festival 10 years ago. And I'm having this moment with him. And I'm not here today producing. I'm not here today meshing my passions and my dreams together and working with the entities I'm working with, the players who I've worked with, the people who I've worked with, if it's not for that journey through that space. So that day, actually, like seeing all the media around and knowing things were going digital, and me already having created some content with Dime and doing some other stuff, I told myself, like, if I'm not going to take this coaching route and figure out where it could take me, then there's this other thing I know I want to do, and there's a growing appetite for it. And it's this, but I couldn't have predicted the industry would have gone this way. I couldn't have predicted things like 30 popping up and all these new platforms. And I've just tried to follow my passion and work with great people and work on my craft. And somehow I'm sitting here talking about it with you guys, closing 2020. So I'm really lucky. So I've always been a movie nut. I've always been a creative nut, as you know, a passionate hoop head, basketball guy. And there's so many similarities between history and teamwork and collaboration, and it's all worked out.
That's amazing, man. And you mentioned Dime Magazine, man, and big shout out to my guys over there. I used to be over there, Bobito Garcia. You got Sean, man. You got so many guys, man. That shout out to Big Paul Rivera. That's my guy, PR. But you got so many guys that I looked up to coming up in the game. Who were some of the guys that were your role models, or some of the people that may have influenced you? And it could have been in basketball, because basketball is obviously our first love. But who are some of the people that influenced you and your role models that kind of gave you that somebody to watch too, and channel what you were doing?
You just named two of them.
That's crazy.
You know, it's really interesting. I don't know if you guys have had this thought as you've gotten older, right? Like, you grow up, you got your crew you grew up playing ball with, right? And then I had a crew that, Joe, you may remember, like, the early film I did about where I went to sleepaway camp and played basketball in those tournaments and stuff. And, you know, that's floating out there digitally. So I had, like, that crew from the summer. And then I went to college and I played small school college football in Ithaca and have these great friends who I've been friends with for 25 years. I have that crew. So usually in your 20s, once you have these groups of friends, you're not forming that many more relationships.
Exactly.
For me, complete opposite. As soon as I stepped into New York City basketball, I think it was the summer of 2003, getting my first job at the old basketball city. And it was actually Justin Leonard, who was running youth stuff over there at the time, hired me. But I met Paul Rivera there, and we became friends, and then eventually very good friends. And I got to work with him on many exciting things. And him with career advice and helping me navigate my way through different Nike experiences, but ultimately encouraging me in the long run to chase what I really wanted to go after. And, you know, I learned so much about the industry from the athlete and marketing strategy side after my days at Bleacher, when I was doing different projects with him and what he was building at Robot with him and the team. And, you know, just different stages of friendship and mentorship. And very fortunate. And then Bobito is somebody that I looked at as, this guy has taken his ultimate passions in life and he's made them his career. How do I do this? Like, how and what's so impressive about Bobito is he was always there to give advice, but I never was like banging down his door. And years later, he always kept an eye on what I was doing and paid attention and really cared. And, you know, doing it in the park was such a memorable experience because it was such a communal basketball film. And when he had the big screening event as part of, I think, Urban Week, like the whole community was there.
Wow.
And I realized after all these years what a special group of people that, like, I became this minute part of. But it was so warm and genuine. And you fast forward to when I start to grow in my career, and I got to produce like multiple episodes of Sneaker Center with Bob, ESPN Plus.
I remember that.
It was such a thrill, and we were having these just great life catch-ups and talks. And he said to me, "Yo, E, you know what I remember? I remember when you asked me to meet you for lunch like 11, 12 years ago, when you were trying to figure out like what your formula was going to be and what you were going to do. And now look at you now." And I was just so impressed. He remembered that moment, because me being able to go to lunch with someone like that and pick his brain and get great advice and stay on his radar and ultimately build a friendship and great respect, and then get to work with him. Is truly amazing. So, those are two of the people. And then, Joe, you can picture this because the full craziness of the journey. Like,
yeah,
between the free sneakers from the basketball court and having to record everything to tape back in the day before you were going everything digital. I've lived 2 careers, and I've assembled so many belongings and things and nostalgia items, and that's the way I feel about so many of my relationships. Like,
right.
There's just so many good people from both sides. So those are 2 of them, and coaches from my past still play a big role in my life. And then I've had some mentors on the production side of the industry who I've gotten to learn from, and whether it's a veteran like a David Check, who has his own company now, who used to run MLB Productions, or John Hawk, who Bobito worked with on Sneaker Center, who's a giant in the industry, and and then getting to work with all these players and athletes who, we're constantly building, and we're constantly sharing life experiences, and real lucky, and obviously the relationship and what we're building at Showtime. It's been great. But those people in particular you mentioned from back in the day,
yeah,
helped me in a big way.
Now, and before Joe goes too, I just want to say, like, I work with the youth, and I tell them it's important that you have people that can see things that you can't see in yourself. And I think, like, when you speak with people, even if they're role models, right, you want people to kind of enroot in things in you, or just give you that push. And I think it's important that we keep people in our circle that have that kind of same mindset that we have, or can pull things out of you. So I think that's dope, because Bobito did the same thing for me when I was a kid. I didn't think I would be having my own tournament and leagues and doing these different things, and he kind of poured that out of me. So it's just that's a unique story to hear you say that. That's what Bob did for you.
I mean, same thing for me. While we're on that topic, Bobito's, one of those, once in a lifetime kind of people that you meet. I'm blessed to be a minority and somebody that was able to get back to basketball the way he has, and allowed doors that are open for me and you and Eric, respectfully, to continue being A1 genuine, right? That to continue it being authentic and never switching up. So that's the one thing I admire about Babito in terms of his content, his delivery, and how he approaches the game, as well as he approaches this craft. So, salutes to him. So I wanted to dive into your psychosis, Eric, in terms of production. So with your wealth of experience with basketball knowledge and your media production, your storytelling interests, ranging from sports to social injustice, I want to know, like, what are the stories, or what stories do you want to engage the audience with that engage you, or what attracts you to these stories that make it compelling for you to make these stories, these documentaries so personal?
It's interesting when you get to the point in your career where you're catch yourself and you're working on the things you set out to do in the first place, but you couldn't get right to it because you had to establish yourself, or you had to take that job, or you had to take that project that you didn't really want to do, but you had to pay rent. So, from the basketball side, it's just, Garnett was always like, I mean, this for me is so surreal. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I told you like the original story, you wouldn't believe me. Like, you wouldn't believe how this is.
We want to hear.
Hold on. Do not leave out anything today. Do not leave anything out today, because you
want to hear it first.
Well, I mean, you're talking, from the fun basketball fan side, right? Like, you're talking to a lifelong Celtics fan that grew up in New York. And after the big three retired and Reggie passed away, I'm growing up amongst all these, these Knicks fans who think, shout out to the 90s Knicks. But it was.
I don't want to get Randy involved, because you and Randy go at it a lot. So
from a from a trash talking standpoint, like, you know, it's just hoops, right? But it was serious and it was rough. And people would say, are we 4-letter words on the show? Or are we keeping this clean for the audience?
Go your other way.
No, talk your stuff, man. Talk your smoke.
No,
Talk your smoke.
people would say fucked up shit to me, like about Reggie Lewis and Len Bias. Like they would say fucked up shit, and I was an angry, like highly competitive teenager, and like things would get intense. Celtics Knicks, right? And you know, just fast forward to then being able to work in basketball and have it be part of my heartbeat every day professionally and follow it. And your whole adult life, you're waiting for a team to come along. You're waiting to root for a winner. And you're waiting to, like, I was a media intern in the 99 playoffs. Like, I know what the Garden felt like in 99, like from a Knicks perspective.
Right.
Unbelievable. Like, when can I feel that with my basketball team? And then aside from, like, you know, a miracle run to the conference finals with Pearson, Walker, and crew at 02, it was nothing. And then at the height of me working in basketball, my favorite team gets the ultimate competitor and guy that wants to win more than anything in the world. And I get to watch him every night because now it's full league pass mode. So KG coming to the Celtics was the dream come true from a Celtic perspective. And at around that time, I'm thinking to myself, what am I really going to go after in my life? And I thought about films I'd want to make and stories I'd want to tell. And, you know, you fast forward halfway through that experience to World Basketball Festival summer, and I'm thinking about these things, and it's like, wow, imagine being able to tell the story of Kevin Garnett winning a championship with the Celtics and what he went through to even make it to the NBA. And then I went to work. And 10 years later, you know, here I sit, but it's at the point where I'm watching that Celtics season, and I'm watching this guy take every frustration, every moment of adversity, and put it into his fire, and it's the fuel to his fire. It's in his furnace, and he's just absorbing any negativity and pushing it back out as intensity and positive energy are raising the level of his teammates, and pushing himself to a level where I don't think I thought about that level in terms of my craft as an adult, off the court, out of the weight room, off the field. It was always associated with the sport. I always coached hard. I always prepped hard. I always worked the kids hard. But with this other thing that I had this interest in, it wasn't, you know, just about learning camera and learning the techniques of editing. It was about so much more, and changing your outlook and changing your mind, and then making the sacrifices needed in one's personal life to really go after and have a career. You know, I could have gotten a job and stuck with that, but that's not what I wanted. And KG fueled so much of that for me. So to then be able to get introduced to him while we're building the Showtime vision and build trust and build a relationship and build the vision, and then do this stuff and do it with, and I left out, you know, one of my other mentors in the space who I've learned from and I'm working with on this project, and that's documentary filmmaker and executive producer Mark Levin. So his production company, Blowback Productions, is the production company on this. His son, Dan Levin, friend of mine, co-producer, co-director on the film. And, you know, Mark's an OG doc filmmaker, and I've learned so much from him and gotten so much confidence from him. But yeah, he met KG and KG's crew out in LA, and that's how I got the introduction. And Dan and I worked together on Legend of Sweet Pea back in the day, the Lloyd Daniels film, and had always wanted to take on something bigger. So the KG happening came from the passion for hoops and some visualization and turning things into realities, and then relationship building with Mark and Dan and Blowback, and then of course Showtime. So that's been a key for me, Joe. I know I went off on a little tangent there, but it's like the stories along the way, so much are tied to relationships. They really are.
Right.
No, and that's why we're here, and that's why we need to know that story, because after, I mean, respectful, I know BG are in the basketball world in New York, but we seen you, and then you was like, we seen you from afar, and it was like, what is he doing? Where'd he go? What's going on? And you would see Eric pop up with certain things, and then like you have to be equipped to understand what he's saying to you, because he's not telling you what he's doing. He's telling you the pieces and moments that he's trying to build, like a puzzle collage. So then that's why
BG, he's giving me a lot of credit for just running around like
He's rubbing it on thin.
Listen.
We gotta rub it on thin, man.
One piece at a time. One piece at a time. One piece at a time. Brick and mortar, man. Brick and mortar.
Brick and mortar.
You've always taken care of me on that side. After you left, things of whatever. I always remember our time, our conversation, how genuine you was. So let's just keep that respectful, because I know that's where I know you from. And leading into your KG conversation, I want to take it and stay there. I want you to talk to us about the KG feature documentary. I'm not sure if you could mention too much about it because it's not released yet, but what was it about? How was it working with KG? Not only you just shared a beautiful story about your Celtics heritage and him coming to your team. How was it working with him? And what should we look forward to in the KG documentary that maybe our fans are not educated on?
You think about all the interviews, all the athletes you've worked with, all the good days, all the bad days, all the days guys don't want to do stuff, but they have to.
Right.
Chasing guys. It's part of the process. This guy wants to work, wants to create, wants to tell stories, and it's we spent 2019 bringing the vision to life, getting the deal to the finish line, and then started this in January of 2020, earlier this year, before the entire planet, of course, changed. But through it all, we have worked. It's been a great collaboration. His energy, his passion makes my life easy. I just got to set him up. I just got to make sure we hit upon everything. Obviously, he trusts me and the team to do so. But this guy, as a creative talent, and it's a performance. When he sits down for these feature interviews, this is a performance.
Mm-hmm.
And learning about how Kevin Garnett came to be KG, and learning these different elements that make up his foundation. And some things he's just, some things he shares very openly. Some things he keeps in the vault forever. That's just how he's wired. But to go through this experience with him and to share in it, and the interviews and, different scenes we've done with different people, it's a truly unique look at a guy who over the course of 25 years changed the history of the sport, affected countless lives, affected the culture around the game,
right,
and is still doing so today. And I don't want to give a lot away from the film, but we are sitting on an incredible amount of material, both past and present. We've somehow navigated the pandemic to keep this thing going, and the delay is not going to be that crazy from when we set out. So we're pushing to release the film post Hall of Fame in June of 2021. We've still got some filming left to do. We've been editing as we go. Some of the interviews I've done, Joe, are just like, aside from KG, are unreal. Just the chorus of voices. So I'm super excited.
No, I didn't want to cut you off, but I wanted to ask you a quick question as you're going into that lane, and before I pass to BG, like, what is for the common person that wants to watch this? What is the documentary about in terms of his life, or is it basketball, is it personal? and without revealing too much.
Sure. It's a hybrid of both, and we really use this. I mean, you talk about making your own luck, and you talk about karma. Like it was karma that I got introduced to him when I did. I got introduced to him when I was in LA because I was there to film Boogie's comeback against the Clippers from the Achilles, and that's when I had my first meeting with him. Like this was all supposed to happen, and just like he was supposed to take the leap from high school to the NBA, and we use this 25-year framework to frame up the impact that his decision had on basketball, on culture, the life he lived at different stages through it, and the relationships he built. And it's this fine mix that we're putting together. As he likes to call it, we're mixing this very flavorful gumbo of all this goodness. And I'm not going to try imitating him now because I just started having my first drink, so I won't be ready for a minute. But
That's
the
funny.
man,
Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays. Oh yeah, it's also the 8th night of Hanukkah. I gotta finish the candles afterwards. But we had a couple of these meetings during 2019, and I knew in these meetings that I had the opportunity, along with my people at Showtime. Shout out Brian Daly, who I'm working directly with over there. I had the opportunity to work with a storytelling machine like no one's ever seen before. We're in this. We're still very. I used to beat myself up because I didn't make the career switch early enough. So I was like all competitive with like all the original 30 for 30s, and I was like, oh man, I'm late to the game. I'm in wave 2 of these directors that get to tell these dynamic sports stories about these individuals or moments in times or teams. And this is part of what I want to do, not all of what I do.
Right.
All of what I want to do, excuse me. And to be able to work with KG, our energies, as hype and excited and passionate as I get, I'm best served to utilize all of these things that are in between my ears and all the research I do to get the most out of the subject. And he's the dream as the subject. So we work really well together in that way when we sit down for interviews or to do some scene work. And then, of course, I mean, the rest of the subject matter is, I mean, it's what formed us. It's what we grew up on. It's looking at these photos of him in 94, 95, and he's wearing the Air Max Barclays. And if it was a silhouette of him and you saw how low the shorts were, you would have thought it was a Fab Five shot. And it was the connection with the music. And, I could never piece together why a certain hip hop song made me feel a certain way in layup lines, or whether it was a piece of rock music or whatever it was. But when you have KG say the beat I was listening to determined the bop I was going to play with, then you're really putting 2 and 2 together for this music basketball convergence, and how one side was they were living each other's lives congruently. And it's just things like that come out of him that are just remarkable. And again, to tell his story and to look at all of the lanes and avenues that he had to do with the development of, or the evolvement of. And I don't know how, and I don't want to turn this into a negative, but I left ESPN on this one, and I can't take it anymore. Like I just, the debate stuff, and they're talking AD versus Giannis and talking about AD's skill set, and they're like, yeah, the only other guy, like, he's surpassed. It was something that lessened KG's skill set, or AD was like on him on steroids, and Stack always says like Anthony Davis is like dunking on steroids, and okay, athleticism or explosion, fine, but like, I'm sorry, Anthony Davis can't do some of the things that 2004 Kevin Garnett did with the basketball.
No.
And we'll tweet out that 15-minute reel on YouTube that I watch every other week for archival ideas, to show this guy's skill set and what he could do with and without the basketball, both ends of the floor.
Second to none. It was second to none.
It's unlike anything we've ever seen before. This guy could pull on shot create whenever he wanted to with his handle. And
at one point in time, he couldn't miss 18-footer, Eric. At one point in time, he could not miss an 18, 15-footer for his life coming out of high school. So Ann Davis and Kevin Garnett, no disrespect to any of those guys. You're talking to a bona fide Hall of Famer that changed the game as a power forward from an athletic power forward, stretch forward.
And he was the first stretch forward. Right, correct.
First stretch forward.
That could play inside.
They put Duncan and they put Garnett together. They're both great, but Garnett stretch you out a little more and has more athleticism. But they go with the 5 titles. They go with Duncan. They go with the safe thing. But I love his intensity. I love.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Eric, I know you did. I don't know if that was you, but there was something that Rainey showed me on Twitter of a Showtime clip of the documentary coming out of him sitting in the chair, talk about how his experience wasn't coming and getting about it.
That's from our
Jordan,
first.
Pat Riley.
Yeah.
He's like, who's this fucking high school kid? Oh!
Yeah. So that's from our first interview, and that was the first look piece that we debuted to media at All Star. So we had this whole thing at All Star with, the announcement of the launch of Showtime Basketball and the partnership with KG, and then KG on All the Smoke, which was unbelievable in front of a live audience, and those guys connecting like that in such a way was thrilling. But that interview was done a few weeks before, and we knew we wanted to have something fresh to show. And we told him the things we were going to cover, but I didn't say to him, give me certain ranges of emotion and things like that.
Right.
He's going to come correct as he does. So when we have that moment on set,
it's crazy.
Like, I'm just frozen on his eye line, staring at him, and I've got goosebumps everywhere, and I'm literally like flexed out in my seat because I'm so fired up. And I'm like, did this really just happen? Did he just give us these 2 stories? First, the pickup game,
right,
with Michael and Scotty.
What a promo!
And I don't want to give away too much because it's a big part of the story. And then he talks about his first workout in front of NBA people. And obviously, if everyone, whoever's listening now or is going to listen to this, you can find the clip on Showtime Basketball. And it's just like, and I'm like, well, this is a hell of a start. This is day one.
Day one.
So this is the last Friday in January, Friday, January 24th. The next day, Saturday, January 25th, we're on the beach in Malibu at 9 a.m. I'm driving through this thick fog to get out there. And I'm hoping the fog stays. Like, this is like the part of me, Joe, that, like, a lot of people don't know. Like, at night, I'm like studying. I'm not studying hoop. I'm studying, Christopher Nolan or David Fincher or Stanley Kubrick or Steven Spielberg. And I'm imagining, like, what the visual of KG walking out of the fog on the beach in Malibu is going to look like. And, of course, by the time we get there, the fog clears. We get some great stuff on the beach nonetheless. We got a drone guy there. We're doing all these things.
Yeah.
And then, that night we filmed some pretty epic stuff in front of this big roaring outdoor fireplace in Santa Monica. And we're shooting some B-roll, and he's got some just 90s hip hop going and just in his mode. And it was an incredible start to the project. And it was also the last day that anything felt normal, because the next morning is when Kobe Bryant's tragedy occurred, literally 10, 15 minutes away from where we were.
Damn.
And it was very surreal. And, All-Star came right after that, which was magical, but it had such a dark cloud over it. And, Kevin was amazing with everything we did, which included going back to Farragut to do some filming, which was very, very special, which you guys will see in the film. But, Joe, it's like, you think about all the years that we spend in this, you know, and BG, like for me, you grow up in parallel with these guys,
Right.
you know, and Kobe, like I had
Surreal.
this funny idea that I was going to reach out after I met Kobe again on All the Smoke. And, you know, I had the information for his team and everything went so well. You know, for years I had this idea, like to do this like funny thing about me getting to run the World Basketball Festival clinic with Kobe 6 weeks after Kobe beat the Celtics in Game 7. And like we graduated high school the same year. We wore the same jersey number.
Yep.
He's one of the great players of all time. I've
That's
pursued
great.
my dreams. You know, I'm not speaking about myself in the same ilk as Kobe Bryant, but the parallels are there. And then you get to have these memorable experiences. And that day at Rucker was so funny because I couldn't tell anybody from my staff or the kids what the surprise was. I had to keep that under my hat. But when he came out, my coaches are looking at me like, yo, is he going to lose his mind? Because he
Right.
like real serious. And it was the first time I ever met him before. And it was like a dream being able to, like whenever I would do clinics, especially when it was station work, I'm going station to station to make sure my coaches are good, my kids are good, read the situation. What do we need? Do we need more energy here? Do we need some teaching help? Is a kid having a bad day? Is my coach having a rough day? So that day, I got to shadow the greatest technician in basketball do that on the Rucker Park floor and just teach and pull kids aside.
It's tough.
And it was incredible. And to be able to have that life experience again, to reconnect, and the parallels are incredible. So the KG parallel here is it's I keep saying the word surreal, but it is. And to be able to be in a position to make a powerful film about a guy with a major impact, and everybody who we sat down with so far. Like some guys sit for docs because they kind of have to, they feel obligated.
Right.
Everybody who sat in that chair, man, from Isaiah Thomas, who I interviewed recently right after Election Day, which was unbelievable, to, you know, Rondo and Pierce and Doc, but, you know, like Jelani McCoy is in the film because he's a peer of KG from back in the day.
Jelani McCoy.
This guy is an unbelievable storyteller. Like, he's incredible. So you have you unearth these things that you never would have known otherwise, and these stories, and it's magical, man. Magical.
Yo, E, man, we gotta just, I mean, on this show, you know, Commissioner's Corner, we all about the flowers, man. And I mean, just to hear you talk about those things, and just to be in the works with Kevin Garnett, and you know, working with Kobe Bryant, we have to say that you are a true iconic, man, and you're very, very, very motivating to people, man, like us, and just even the youngsters that are in this, man, because I've seen you in Crossing when you were at Game 7, but to see the things that you're doing now is just like, man, it kind of makes you feel like there's no limit, right, to what you can do in this business. And I think a lot of times we're in a world where people just try to box you in and just say, okay, well, you're the basketball coach and that's what you're going to do for 50 years. And it's like, come on, you're like I'm a basketball coach, but basketball coaches create stories, right? Basketball coaches create characters, right? Because the characters are the players. So we just want to give you your flowers, man, before we even go to the next question. But I
appreciate that. And hey, real quick, I've been around in this so long that I was transitioning out when Game 7 was born.
Right.
Like before Game 7 was born is when I was doing my work. Like technically, you know, I mean, those are all people I have long relationships with. Like by the time Game 7 was up and running, like I was pretty much out, like hustle with the camera in my hand. And you make me think of a few things, right? Like everyone assumed, oh, so E is filming and editing, so that's what he's going to do. No, I'm filming and editing so I can figure out how to learn how to be a producer, and a director, and a creator to get me there. And you know, it's just crazy how every step of the way became a building block. But I appreciate you saying that.
No problem. So like youngsters like to say, respectfully, right? Respectfully.
Oh, and I'm sorry. One more thing before I forget.
Okay.
So you're and I appreciate the compliments, and you said something that triggered a hilarious story. And where can this take me, right? Because I'm not settling here. Like there's no ceiling. There's no limit. Like I didn't leave basketball. Like I still get to work in basketball, but I didn't leave basketball to just do sports docs. Like I want to make big time shit that you all want to talk about that have an effect on lives, that have an effect on relationships, that have an effect on our society. This Jersey 4 doc I've been working on for several years that we're finally going to complete in 2021 about the racial profiling incident on the Turnpike in '98 and what has and hasn't changed since. But I'm constantly humbled through this incredibly ironic and hilarious situation I'm in. And I don't know if you guys saw this last week. It was Deadline, and I think Variety had it too. Something I've been aware of for 13 years. There was an announcement of a Kevin Hart, Wesley Snipes project last week.
Sheesh.
With an experienced Hollywood producer and showrunner who also produced and showruns Narcos, along with many, many other successful films and shows. You know what his fucking name is? Eric Newman.
Tough, E. Tough.
So
tough, my God.
So I am getting inundated with screenshots, IG messages, cold call pitches on LinkedIn, blind emails from actors and actresses thinking I'm him. So it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's a funny story.
Real quick, let me just wrap it up. So in 2007, I'm in the movie theater every year, once or twice a year, especially around holiday time. Me and my parents, who are, still doing well out on Long Island, we would go to a holiday movie, like whatever we wanted to see, and that's where I get the film and creative bug from my parents. So we're seeing this crazy sci-fi drama called Children of Men with Clive Owen. Really good film. And we always sit for the credits because, if you're a cinephile, that's what you do. So we sitting for the credits, and the credits roll, and in the closing credits, it says produced by Eric Newman.
Yeah.
And my mom looks at me and she's like, "Is there something you want to tell us?" And just with my shit-eating grin, I'm like, one day.
See that?
And then when Narcos dropped, I mean, you should see the hilarious messages I would get. Like Joe, like our boy Kashif Pratt would screenshot my name on the screen with Escobar in the opening credits and be like, I can't believe you did this and didn't tell me. Like all these and now it's full circle again because he's in the press and this guy's done very well. But now it's like, oh wow, like, all right, I'm doing some real things, and the competitive, prideful side of me is like, I'm not going to be the other Eric Newman. No. This guy's going to be the other Eric Newman. But Joe, our boy, and then BG, I'll let you run your show again as I've hijacked the show. But our boy Aaron Phillips put me, him, and the other Eric Newman on an email when this was happening like 4 years ago.
That's tough.
And we had a little back and forth, and he was in South America or Mexico on location for Narcos. And I never took it anywhere. But now I'm going to. And it's going to be hilarious.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. That's a funny story. me and Joe going through it. And Joe's like, "No, BG, that's not that Eric Newman." I'm like, "Well,
Eric."
They kind of resemble each other a little bit. I'm like, Joe, I ain't drinking, but they kind of is. You sure that's not eating?
Hey, Eric. So we're preparing for the show, right? As we always do. And then, Randy's our producer. So we're like, hey, listen, let's do our history on Eric. As much as we know him in terms of what he does in basketball, what he's done on production, you just still want to be prepared. so BG sends in our group chat, "Is this Eric Newman?" And he was like, "Hell no."
I'm like, I know I wasn't drinking too much.
Then he shows a real Eric Newman. And DJ's like, "Oh, I know Eric Newman." I'm like, "What the fuck was the other Eric Newman coming from?
Where the hell?
The opposite.
Yo, it was fun. It was so funny,
Oh,
man.
man.
But nah, but
Oh.
E, man, like I said, respectfully, man, you have one of, to me, my favorite, shows out right now with all the smoke, man. And salute to you, man. Again, flowers to you for that. And we just wanted to know, like, how did the show come about? What was the creative content behind, creating the show? And you have, two of the most, trash talking, in your face, co-host. How did that come about with you guys casting them or directing them to be the co-host? Just give us a little bit of spiel of how that great collage came together.
This is I'm gonna try to. It's one of the best examples of where relationships will get you.
Yes.
So, very quick backstory. Summer of 2016, I start doing this role with Robot, where DraftKings is their client, and I'm overseeing the creation of all this athlete video content being done by DraftKings on their platform. So the first thing that I had to do was go to this shoot that was already set up with DeMarcus Cousins. Nice. In Vegas during Summer League for a day on the way to then going to the ESPYs for the whole week, doing all this athlete content stuff on the fly. So I go to this shoot with Boogie and his team, and it goes great, and the piece comes out really well, and it goes viral. And, did I have a ton to do with it? No, I just started, but it was managing the relationship. But I kept the relationship. And then fast forward to early 2018, I'm on this Turner docu-series down in Atlanta, and it's Friday night, and I'm watching DeMarcus Cousins on the Pelicans against the Rockets finish up his second triple-double of the week. He misses a free throw in the closing seconds. He chases the ball down, and he unfortunately tears his Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
So the idea for the resurgence is born that night from me thinking about how do we potentially in some way document the comeback of this guy from this serious injury when he was going to get the max as a free agent, and now who knows. So the reason why I'm sharing all this is because this was part of what helped create Showtime basketball, along with bringing in Quiet Storm, the great Artest film done by my friend and colleague Johnny Sweet, along with all the great past pieces of work done by directors that sit under the Showtime basketball umbrella, from Kobe Bryant Muse to Iverson to One and Done to Shut Up and Dribble, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm interviewing Matt Barnes for the Boogie film the following fall. And I had seen him on TV with some of his appearance work, but I didn't know a ton about who this guy was other than what I saw on television as a player and a guy that I know I would have loved to have on my team, right?
Right.
So we have this great interview, and he's burning, and I'm like, I don't know how this guy is giving me this material. But this is who he is. And we probably spent about 45 minutes afterward talking, and I had to go to San Diego that night to interview Coach Mike Malone and Isaiah Thomas, who was on the Nuggets at the time, playing preseason game against the Lakers. So, I didn't have a lot of time, but we kind of laid this foundation of mutual respect, and the interview went really well, and I was really excited about it. And on the way to San Diego, I called my guy Brian at Showtime, and I said, Matt Barnes is beyond impressive. If we're ever going to build out anything like we think we want to, he's a guy you got to connect with.
For sure.
We left it at that and let him do his thing. So you combine that with the fact that Stack's interview in Quiet Storm is equally as good or better, and Stack and Barnes are tight, and we're friends with the guy that did Quiet Storm. And then it was knowing that, all right, we want to build Showtime basketball, building the Garnett relationship, which at first would ultimately be this feature.
Right.
What can we create on digital that's going to make an impact that can be really good and really unique? And Barnes and Stack were both doing TV, but nobody would commit to them for anything more sizable than these guest appearances. And like I'm happy to share in some of the credit, but Brian Daly and the people at Showtime for believing that we could build this team around them as the talent, around us as kind of the architects and the creative, with an external production partner that's Malcolm Media, Malcolm Sports, who I did the Resurgence with, who does a ton of Showtime content as well. And we put a plan together. And we got Showtime basketball greenlit, all the smoke greenlit, but we then had to prove that this was going to work. And the surprise to us was, as much confidence as we had in ourselves and them and what we were creating, the rapid growth and the pace of the build, we never could have predicted. But this is how it came about. And for Matt and Stack, guys who were always being judged from afar, guys that had these labels and so many other guys like them that had these labels, well, it's time for them to have a seat at the table. It's time for them to be in front of a microphone. It's time for them to tell their stories and to be a vehicle for others to tell their stories and be comfortable with.
Right.
And that's what we set out to create, and that's what we've created. But between the rapid growth and then just the teamwork in the build, but then the pivot to remote when the pandemic hit, that's where we really that's where the long-term vision started to be formed with where we could take it. We knew we had something great. We knew we had big guests and meaningful episodes. We had Kobe, we had KG, we had Durant, we had Curry, all before. But then to get everybody remote and for the audience to be home and be like refreshing the YouTube channel and waiting for the alert and waiting for the midnight drop or the noon drop.
Right.
And then the way Barnes and Stack engage, and obviously their position now in our society as activists and leaders, this show is a dream, man. This show's.
And for Joe too, I think for me, the thing I love about it is, right, those are two guys that, like you said again, have had these tags on them as players, as kind of people too, right, with a lot of adversity that they both have to deal with off the court. And then they have the opportunity to control the narrative and speak from a player standpoint when the media kind of controls everything that the player does, right? So like now you see Kyrie Irving and all these different people going at it with the media. But I feel like what the show has done is it has made the player not afraid to kind of voice who they are and what they do and kind of own it. You know what I mean? Because for years, we've always had this question mark about Steven Jackson and who he was and why did he have so much beef with Greg Popovich and why he couldn't last and all these different things, right? And now you hear them on the show and you see how articulate they are and how passionate they are, but you also see that there was a different version of the story. And I think that's what's been so great with all the smoke and just a bunch of other things you guys are doing at Showtime Basketball, because you're giving the athlete that voice and that stage and platform to kind of say, well, this is me. You know what I mean? And nobody else is going to voice who I am. This is who I am as an athlete.
Yeah. And the way they utilize their collective experiences with guests.
Right.
And know that there's going to be no judgments.
Yes.
I mean, we had Dwayne Wade talking like deep family stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
About like the sexuality of one of his children, and Paul Pierce talking about the anxiety and having around the clock security after he was stabbed multiple times 20 years ago, and how that stayed with him and made him a gym rat and elevated him. You know, AD talking about everything that went down with Golden State and crediting the Warriors for teaching him so much, and Draymond sharing his side of it, and KG sharing magic from his journey, and Carrie Champion and Jamel Hill talking about what it's like to be, you know, a woman of color in journalism, and have so many of these criticisms. And Joe, like you were saying before, to be constantly placed in a box. We're getting all of these honest and incredible stories.
Yes, sir.
and to watch Matt and Stack not just do the show, but like they're learning as they go. They're learning from every guest. We dropped our Jim Gray episode today, earlier, and it timed up really well. With Jim's got a new book out called Talking with Goats, and obviously he's done work at the NBA with the NBA, of course, as a broadcaster, Showtime Boxing. With some, there isn't anybody that's worked with as many greats, but like when the show was over, Barnes and Stack were like so excited that they heard all these stories from Jim Gray. Like they're so they come with this confidence, and you know, once you get to a certain level, we've all got egos in certain ways, right? But at the same time, they're so humble, and they want to be coached, and they want us to go deep on the prep, and they want to have these things at their fingertips. And you know, I had a bit of an established rapport with Matt already. I didn't with Stack. Stack and I didn't meet for the first time until we did like really stylized like pre-shoot with like the smoke machine and them in that LA alley and them and doing all that stylized stuff. And he and I were just talking ball all day. All day. And not for one moment did I feel like I was talking to somebody who thought, oh, all right, I'm the NBA guy and this is my producer and he works for me. No, like these guys are so appreciative of the team, the effort, the vision, the passion, and to navigate this year with them, knowing what they've experienced. And Matt's experienced a lot, and you know, obviously, a good majority of the country and the world knows what Stack's experienced.
Yeah,
it's incredible, man. It's incredible.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you a secret. So
it's not gonna be a secret anymore.
It's not gonna be a secret today. I'm gonna let you know. You've been an inspiration to this podcast in many indirect ways, right?
Sure.
The reason why I wanted you on today is because I want you to share the story about all the smoke. And what our fans don't know, that me and BG, as much as we don't look like Matt Barnes and Stack, we wanted to be the new Matt Barnes and Stack.
Okay.
Inspiration, the voice, how they trust each other, how Stack really enjoys working with Matt, and how Matt has taken such a leap in, like, I don't want to say the leader of the show, but more the person like asking the questions and being the person that set the tone. And Stack is pretty much the person that's getting the pass and it's like fit in how you get in. So I always admired that dynamic, and that's the reason. One of the reasons why I told BG, I said, "Listen, BG, we do this. We could probably be the new Matt Barnes and the new Steven Jackson of podcast work." So I commend you on that. But I wanted to let you know that the biggest thing that I love about the show is the authenticity.
Sure.
And the way the dialogue and the way that questions are really geared to the guest. It doesn't make them feel that they're on stage, even though they're on stage. The way that the lighting, the background, and how certain things are kind of laid out for more of a culture standpoint. So I wanted to tell you that, but I think one of the I guess obviously one of the best shows that were aired, and I watch every show, but I mean just knowing that Kobe Bryant spoke about earlier. I know you had arranged to go to his house, do all the smoke. Can you educate our fan? I know you spoke about it briefly but in just remembering Kobe and just honoring Matt and Stack and just what you guys do on that platform, talk about how that process came along, and how does that show now mean to you more ever than what it was originally when it was first taking place?
Yeah, I mean, Kobe was at his office, and I told this story. Told this story to somebody last week. Like, I've had some, and we've all had like these 24 or 48 hour windows where we're like, is this real? Like, is this really happening? Like, whether you're in a room with someone doing a show at a game. So in a 24-hour period last December, I'm at the Hollywood ArcLight premiere of Uncut Gems with the big fella and his team to going to the after party with the whole world there and like, talking Celtics Heat with KG and the Truth at the after party for Uncut Gems, and like Sandler's like right here, like talking pickup ball, and I had to cut the night kind of early and limit myself to one beverage because the next morning I had to be up at 6:15 to be at the studio at 7 to drive with Stack and Barnes, filming the whole time to shoot the Kobe episode. So you want to talk about a 24-hour window of just this is my life now. This is where this is taking me. And I was so locked in on making sure we captured this car ride right and the crew was right. I was living through Stack and Matt's excitement around being there with Kobe.
For sure.
And they are fairly chill and regular with pretty much everybody I've ever seen, KG included, who they never really sat down with before and had this great pre-session with him to really build.
Right.
They were like kids at an autograph session when we got to Kobe's office. And then they got their game faces on, and it was this incredible, however long we went, 40, 45 minutes, because the man only had so much time. This incredible exchange of respect and admiration and humility that I felt it was so substantive. And I know how much Kobe meant to both of them in different ways.
Right.
And listen, you have your feeling about Kobe. BG, you have your feeling about Kobe. I have my unique feelings. Stack does, Barnes does, everybody does. There's no comparing them, right?
Right.
But to know what happened a month later and to know how people reacted to that episode before he passed and after he passed, and what Matt and Stack had built with him over time, and then it comes through in that episode.
Yep.
Man, it's magical. It's magical. And I don't know if you guys caught it, and it's such a huge opportunity for me. We had 8 best of episodes that we crafted for network that were on TV. They're on Showtime on demand, cheap plug. So they debut right after Inside the NFL at 9 o'clock. At 10 o'clock on Tuesdays for 8 straight weeks. And one of them was an episode dedicated to Kobe, using clips from that one, but also other guests talking about him, sharing Kobe stories.
Beautiful, man.
And just to go back and look at it and see it and know where he was in his life post-career, and the impact he was making on the people directly in his life, starting with his family to people thousands of miles away. Such an inspiration. And the fact that I got to come full circle with the guy after 10 years and tell him like my first experience with him impacted my career path and decision making, and it got me here, and I'm doing this show with you today. I don't take that lightly. It's miraculous. So to answer the other part of your question, we weren't sure like how this was going to go with me doing the show and the film with the team.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy I've stayed as hands-on as I have. And I'm so happy that it's become this ultimate team thing.
Yep.
The prep, the technical, the post, the strategy, the social media, the guys embracing it all, the guests who want to come on. To pair that with my dream basketball project.
That's crazy.
At the same time.
And listen, I wanted to be you for like a day.
For sure.
I wanted to be you for a day, just to kind of absorb all that and all that energy and all that folklore and all that basketball renaissance in front of you, right? Like we always speak about basketball in the highest wording in terms of Mecca basketball, but being around even putting Matt Barnes and Stack and Kobe in that same realm is like it's still to us as regular people basketball echelons, right? And for you to be around that and experience that in the most humblest way is where I want to share with you one day. If I could be a fly on the wall, that would be the absolute time for me to be a fly on the wall to see how these guys would be regular.
Oh yeah, well we gotta, yeah, we gotta for sure. And listen, like there's so many stories to tell, right? And like especially where we're from, right? Like I consider myself like I'm an honorary member of New York City basketball. For those that accept me, like I wasn't born in the city.
Honorary.
I was born with the influence of the city. I was born coming into the city from 20 miles away. I wasn't coming into the New York City that became safe for people in the late 90s and 2000s. I was coming into 1987, 88, 89 New York City with my parents to get to a museum or a show or a movie or a bookshop and get that taste of culture, or go into Borough Park with my dad to see grandma when she was still alive, which my grandma passed away, that side of the family, in 92. I was going to Borough Park, and like New York was in a rough place, man. And then you connect basketball with it and you connect the history you're learning about. And that starts to become slowly but surely part of your DNA. And then to want to live here, get the opportunity to do it, and then be welcomed the way I was welcomed, because all I wanted to do was coach, teach the game, and the principles and the foundation of the game. Like either whether you're from the country, the suburbs, or the city, like that's a language that you can speak anywhere. So the fact that I spoke that language, and as some people would say, had a little bit of an edge to me and a fire to me, it worked. And there's so many New York stories to tell. So to come full circle, Joe, our job in 2021 is to figure out, all right, how do we tell a story together?
Right.
Oh.
And then you're more than a fly on the wall. So I'm down.
That's dope.
You know how to find me. I'm down.
I know how it goes. But before we go into rapid fire, I know BJ has one last question, and we'll go into rapid fire.
So man, again, we just wanted to hear from the man behind the lens, the man behind the creativeness, and this has been excellent, man, because a lot of times, just the faces are the ones that are glorified, but we don't give a lot of time. We don't give the flowers to the people that are behind what's going on. So it's been great, man, to just hear the stories of what you have going on. But we're excited to hear. Can you give us a little intel about what you have coming up for 2021, and what are some of the things that you may be working on? Just give us. I know you talked about the KG thing, but give us a little bit more insight about maybe some of the things that the big dog Eric Newman has coming up for 2021.
I am now the big dog. Big Glenn Robinson fan, by the way.
Those big dog.
That's a throwback name. That's a throwback name.
Listen, man, that's the first big three.
Yo, can you imagine? Can you imagine what Glenn Robinson would do in the NBA today with these rules? Are you kidding me?
Oh,
but I'm glad his son is stuck in the league. But Dad was
Michigan. Yep.
Glenn Robinson, assassin.
Are you fucking kidding me? So, BG, I'm really hard on myself. I'm really competitive with myself. So like, I try to set the table as much as I can for what's far in front of me, but it's been so busy in a good way where I'm figuring out what projects I want to do next, but I have the luxury of knowing all the smoke is a major point of concentration, part of my job. Building the Showtime basketball platform is part of my job. So, more doors are opening more than ever, but I'm also trying to be like very, very selective with what I get into next, because the Garnett film needs to be, and will be a tremendous piece of work, but it's hard to think about other things
right
other than what's right in front of me. So I have a slate that I'm constantly tinkering with when I have time, but making KG the best it could be, figuring out what else we're going to do with him on the digital platform is something that's in the works. Building all the smoke, building some properties off the Showtime digital platform, off of all the smoke. You'll see a new segment come out from us with the guys next week for the launch of the season, which is going to be a lot of fun. Finishing the Jersey 4 film, which we're partnering with. They haven't done a release yet, but we're partnering with RTG Ventures to finish that film. I just finished a short film about some special stuff going on in Yonkers with football serving as the bridge between law enforcement and community. So
nice.
For me, it's figuring out when can this exciting roller coaster I'm on, when is the right overlap with the scripted world to get some of my ideas moving at a quick pace there,
right?
And figure that out, because fellas, the other Eric Newman is out there. He's got to know.
You're gonna pass him. You're gonna pass him. Listen, you're gonna pass.
But out of all seriousness, like, I'm driven by the game and stories around the game and Showtime basketball platform. Like, if you told me, Eric, you're going to build this platform with the team over there at Showtime for the next 5 years as a major part of your job, then I'm thrilled. At the same time, like, I'm a filmmaker and a storyteller too. So what are the other things that I want to do in unscripted and scripted that makes sense, that could piggyback off of what I'm doing now? And I'm figuring it out. But as far as social justice, equality, activism, and the historical lens behind all that, those stories and some things that have occurred real life in our society greatly interest me to influence scripted work. So those are some of the things that really inspire me. And, and then I'm inspired by, other films and filmmakers, and I'm still honing the craft. I'm still going back to pieces of work that either inspire me or things that I've done that I want to improve upon. So I'll have more for you soon.
Before Joe goes into rapid fire, right? I ain't even tell Joe this, right? But I got something for you, man. I started writing a little. This is like 2 years ago. I wrote a little script called The Handler, man. It's like Blue Chips on steroids. So I might have to email it to you. I think you might like it. Showtime.
I always tell people I'm happy to read their stuff. Whether it goes anywhere after that, I can't comment or promise. Right. But if you put time and thought into something and you grace me with the privilege of reading it,
of course,
I will hopefully have some notes that will help you. But at the same time, I'm getting better because I'm reading a piece of original work and I'm absorbing that. So
dope, man.
Anytime you want to send that, I'm happy to read it for sure.
Well, since we're dropping dimes today on live radio, let me ask you. I'm gonna tell you a secret.
As much as I miss playing ball, man,
I want to tell you what I want to tell you.
I'm just throwing a really good pick and roll bounce pass to somebody. Fuck, I need to hoop, man, badly.
So I want to tell you this. That I wanted to let you know. First of all, I really want you to let Matt and Stack know that we got mad love for them and we respect them. And part of that part of the platform is that. Two, I mean, I know BG's on here, but Hoops in the Sun. I'm trying to do a documentary. So I'm 21 years in the game, so I know somebody that knows Eric Newman that can, we could talk offline, but that was my goal today to let you know.
There you go.
You've been capturing tape for 20 years. You got 20 years of tape.
Eric, I have VHS tapes, my brother. I had the tapes.
They take up a lot of room, bro. They take up a lot of room.
My brother has the vault. I have a storage at the beach.
Wow,
that's crazy.
I'm not gonna put you in the fire now, but I'm gonna let you know. This thing about that, it's an opportunity that we can kind of divulge in respectfully. But now I'm gonna put you in the corner, and ask you a question because I really want to know I want my fans to know you more, and I want to get to.
So you're giving me the rapid fires the way we do the quick hitters on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You ready?
Like I wasn't gonna catch on to that. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm in a stance.
And before I do that, the producer said you're big on stats, right? So I got a history stat today.
Okay.
Today makes Kobe Bryant's debut versus Michael Jordan '96.
Mm.
Kobe had 5 points, and MJ had 30. And today marks Kobe Bryant's second matchup versus Michael Jordan in '97, when Kobe had 33 and Mike had 36.
Wow. That's tough. That's tough,
So,
Randy.
Rest in peace, Kobe, and your
Mama.
family. You are always in our thoughts, and you make basketball much better than it was or what it is. So thank you for being in our life.
Kobe
So,
forever.
Kobe, so I want to share that with you. So right into the commissioner corner. Here we go. Eric Newman, what is your best hip hop R&B album of all time?
Ooh.
See the face, BG.
It's so funny. It's so funny that I do these for all the shows, for all the smoke.
I tell you, we are the new stacking Matt Barnes.
Yeah.
So we learn from the best. Yes. Come on, E.
You gotta put the clock on E New.
Come on, E.
It's tough.
All time. Hip hop or R&B. Whatever.
It still might be. It's either the Tribe album.
Which one?
Beats Life and Times.
Got you.
That's tough.
Because it was such a big part of my teenage years.
Tribe Called.
Or it's Biggie, Ready to Die.
Oh man, can't go wrong.
Yeah. So I don't listen to a lot of new stuff.
Right.
I listen to a lot of old stuff. And my appreciation for the old stuff grows every time I'm able to shut off the noise and just put an album on the soundbar and just let it play. And I've been through quarantine, and I know this is rapid fire, but through quarantine, when I got to get the at-home workout in, that's what I do. I just put it on, let it go, and then I'm just doing the crunches and the push-ups and the jumping jacks and the squats. And Joe, you'll love this. I lay on the floor doing form shooting straight up in the
air. Classic. That's classic, man.
You
gotta hold it up.
Got to.
So you in the corner. No pressure, man, and we don't want you to get slayed by KG on this one. You know what I mean? What's your favorite sneaker of all time?
My favorite figure?
Sneaker.
Oh, sneaker.
Lifestyle on the court and off the court.
Off the court, it's the Jordan 1 or the Jordan 3.
I
was really superstitious as a athlete and a coach, and then I lost it along the way a little, but I've got a pair of Jordan 3s. It's the grays that came out with the hints of the lime green on them.
Oh yeah. Classic.
I wear those for every interview with KG because I'm superstitious as fuck. And the first time I interviewed him, which created that great clip, I was wearing those, and now I won't interview him without them. So those are the off. On, when I played, I was, I'm a suburban Long Island kid, so we were like Nike team shoes. Like my coach was very old school, so my coach was coached by Stan Van Gundy. So and BJ Armstrong gave me the green light. He gave me the approval. I'm part of the Van Gundy coaching tree. So part of that comes from like this like old school mentality where everyone wears the same sneakers, and there's like that era. So I'd have to say the best thing I've played in post high school, college is the original Hyperfuse. Was my favorite sneaker to play in from World Basketball summer. And I still have at least 3 pairs of those in the closet, and I'll never get rid of them.
Super light. Those are super light.
They feel like a slipper.
Super light on the feet.
And there was nothing that felt light about how I played. And for everybody watching this who knows me, knows that, foot speed was not one of my gifts. But, man, those made me feel quick.
Yeah, those are tough.
They were great. They were great. I love those. I never played in J's. I didn't come from means where I could have those shoes as a kid. One of the great hookups I ever got in the industry was when we were doing stuff with Converse, and they sent me a pair of the weapons, like the Larry Bird weapons, which are still in my closet.
Classic.
I'll never forget the first time I wore those out to a bar. Man, that was a fun night.
So keeping it NBA.
PG, I was weaponized. PG. I was weaponized. I was dropping no looks at the bar.
Don't fall for that, BG.
Passer of all time. I know that's not on your list, but I'm adding one. I'll still put Larry Bird as the best passer of all time.
Okay, so then answer me this. I know your favorite. I'm assuming your favorite NBA team is the Boston Celtics of all time, correct?
Correct. There's no second place.
I can't ask you that because I already know the answer. So who's your favorite player all time? Either you watched or followed.
That's tough.
So as a kid, it was Bird.
Okay.
Like I was a Larry Bird aholic, Celtic aholic, and grew up learning what Celtics Lakers meant, like why it was important. And my dad's a Celtics fan. He grew up in Brooklyn. There were only 8 teams in the NBA when he grew up. He got to the Garden once for a doubleheader. So back then, if you have a doubleheader at the Garden, which happened often, you have half the league in the building at the same time. There are only 8 teams. So he saw the Celtics pre-Russell with Cousy and Sharman, coached by Auerbach too from Brooklyn. Same heritage, same background. And he passed it on to me, and I just, watching Bird was incredible. But then as a young adult, KG and Pierce.
Tough.
Pierce from day one as a Celtic, and then following KG and Soda, there was a certain amount of guys in the league on other teams I love to watch. He was one of them. And then, of course, when he comes to the Celtics, it's just like it's incredible to look at this guy's career, the impact he had on the team. But yeah, those are my guys. Those are my guys for sure.
For sure. Now, this ain't on it, and Joe always gets mad when I kind of add a rapid fire because sometimes.
I got a surprise to BG.
But my other, just for a little history perspective, and I know the hardcore hoopers who listen or watch this will appreciate this. 2 of my favorite players as a kid were taken from us the same summer, way too young. And that's Reggie Lewis and that's Drazen Petrovic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Reggie was my guy. Reggie became captain after Larry retired.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So when Reggie passed away, man, I either wore his jersey or had that thing tucked into my champion shorts like every day.
Yeah.
Every day. He was my guy. And then Drazen, for me, growing up on Long Island, and we finally get cable, I think, in 8th grade. I had that ugly brown cable box with the switcher to the different levels.
Yeah.
And every NBA night, my dad and I are trying to decide, all right, the Knicks are better, right? But the Nets games were that much more exciting because of Kenny and DC and Draws. And, we couldn't stand the Knicks, Celtics fans. So down the stretch every night, if the Knicks were handling people, we're going over to Sports Channel. And we're watching just the drama of Drazen Petrovic unfold. And I loved watching this guy play so much. So those were some of the other guys that I loved.
Sure. Yeah. That's the best Nets jersey of all time, too, man, for me.
And it's going to come back out this year. It's coming back out.
And one brother, 30 for 30, that's about Drazen and Vlade. Like, great story from my journey. That's when I'm doing basketball reviews of every, HBO was putting stuff out 30 for 30. Everything that came out, I'm doing reviews, and they're going on timemag.com. So I watched Once Brothers, and when it ended, I broke down and cried because of how much it reminded me of my childhood, how much I appreciated everything my parents had done for me, those nights watching Hoop with Dad. And I write the review, and it's very personal, and I'll never forget. Joe, you remember what the inside of the old dime office looked like? Looked like kind of like an abandoned kind of warehouse.
Yeah, I think you're being nice on that one. Go ahead.
I'm being nice. So I'm sitting in a little office doing some work.
Yeah.
And we had just dropped the review came out like maybe the day before. Wasn't a big deal. CBS Sports took 5 of the most like unique reviews of the film and packaged them into an article and tweeted it out. Oh, and all of a sudden, I hear Aaron Phillips in the other room. Newman, get in here. You're famous. And my review was the first on the list of Once Brothers. It was simply because they shared what the film meant to me and the magic of social and digital media. So there's another tangent for you.
That's dope. So again,
I got 2 more. And I got a surprise for him.
Hold on. I got one for him.
Go, partner.
Mount Rushmore of film directors or creative content.
Ooh, that was a good one. That's a good one.
Come on, Joe. I'm beating you, baby.
Good one. Damn, that's a good one.
I'm gonna go Mount Rushmores of directors.
There you go.
Like I'm not gonna go documentaries. I'm gonna go directors.
Good one, BG.
So this is tough.
I knew it.
So can I?
How we doing that bourbon? How we doing that bourbon? Okay.
Refill stat. Can I go 2 Mount Rushmores?
You could.
The first Mount Rushmore is Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick, Steven Spielberg, and Martin Scorsese. Period. For me. So I grew up watching all these Hitchcock films when I was young, and I'm trying to like decipher the genius. And then wave 2 of that is Quentin Tarantino, who has had a huge effect on me. It's like I have a story for every answer, so I'll give you the Tarantino story in a second. Quentin Tarantino, Spike Lee, Christopher Nolan, and it's probably a tie somewhere, but yeah, Michael Mann, Heat, Ali, The Insider, or David Fincher, Zodiac, Seven, Social Network.
Tough.
I study all these guys, and thank goodness you have so much on YouTube now to watch and absorb. Like you have a free film education. But Tarantino,
that's my guy.
The summer of 2009, when Inglourious Basterds came out, you know, it's the summer before World Basketball Festival. I'm still teaching to pay the bills. I'm still doing clinics. I'm coaching. But I'm 31 and I'm starting to like get impatient with myself. I'm starting to doubt whether I'm going to make it in basketball. What am I doing? And Tarantino's doing the press tour for Inglourious Basterds, which, you know, somebody who grew up with a Jewish heritage, that film changes your life. It's, you know, the ultimate, you know, what if revenge story. If you haven't seen it, well, go see it. So it's no longer a spoiler. But he does Charlie Rose, and he's talking about the career choices and lifestyle choices he made so he could become not Reservoir Dogs Tarantino, not Pulp Fiction Tarantino, but Tarantino. He could keep working, pick his projects, build his teams, and achieve his lifelong work. And he talked about the choices, and he talked about putting relationships on hold, and he talked about not wanting to make BG's script or Joe's script or Eric's script, but starting with his own blank canvas and creating from there. And in that moment, I'm like, that's what I want to do. Sure. That's the road for me. I want to craft these visions and build these teams and create this magic. I don't know how I'm going to get there,
Right.
But I'll put a relationship on hold, or I'll stop dating for a year, or I'll stop going out as much. Because when I started to sacrifice tonight to benefit tomorrow, instead of staying out till 2 or 3, instead of going home at 11 or 12, that's where the improvements were made. That's where the evolution happened. I used to love to go out and have a good time. There's a lot of people watching this and listening to this probably know or probably
Jules, man.
But until you start to really like get mind and body and rest and focus and play, and I'm just listening to the master Tarantino talk about this. I'm like, well, he can do it. Why can't I fucking do it?
Right.
Yeah.
Never going to compare myself to that man. That man's a genius. Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing, 25th Hour, Black Klansman, everything else before, after, and between. How can I learn from this?
Yeah.
So you asked for one Mount Rushmore, and I like to over deliver. I gave you 2.
Appreciate you.
I got you. Quick hitters. And favorite NBA city to visit pre-COVID.
Boston, LA, split down the middle.
Got you.
LA's been so good to me, and I didn't go to LA at all when I was young. It's been so good to me. I became bi-coastal through this work. I'm going to spend a lot of 2021 out there. And then I saw some epic games and had some epic nights in Boston, along with being on the wrong side of history at LeBron's 45-point game in 2020. Next.
Favorite movie, show, or documentary for you all time?
So not fair. I'm the guy that has 25
all the smoke
in his top 5.
All the smoke, yeah.
All the smoke, baby.
Name my own stuff. What's my favorite show of all time? I haven't thought about that recently.
Okay.
Back in the day, it was 24.
Okay.
Before TV changed and streaming came in, it was 24. As much as I love Curb and The Sopranos, like I was a 24 guy. That for me was everything. I felt like I was watching a movie every Monday night.
Sure.
Fucking awesome.
Well, for me, it's Denzel's performance in Training Day.
Oh yeah.
My favorite movie all time. The performance DiCaprio did in the Departed. And I would say my favorite movie will be Departed and Training Day. My favorite show would be Breaking Bad. All time. Just all time. Documentary, I know the Iverson you did was great. I know Artest was awesome.
Well, I can't take credit for Iverson, but Showtime.
Well,
Showtime.
Showtime.
Yep.
The Kenny Anderson story was great. Chibs is awesome. And I mean, there's a bunch of there's so many out there. I just think those are like relative to me because, you know, I just turned 42, so my time frame is within that time frame of Kenny and Artest and those guys. And we mentioned earlier how we grew up in parallel to them, right? Like I'm in that Dirk Nowitzki conversation, like seeing those guys come from babies to pups to become grown men and become legends.
I mean, for me, I mean, Celtics Lakers was so special because of what it meant in the lineage of the game and what my basketball foundation was built on. So that's one of my favorite docs. Once Brothers is also one of my favorite docs. Films, Inglourious Bastards is one of them. You know, you talk about Denzel in Training Day is such a great example, Joe, of the connection you have between an incredible performance in a film. And that connection for me dates back to something my father showed me as a kid that I've studied as an adult, and that's On the Waterfront, starring the great Marlon Brando, who, of course, is in The Godfather. That performance in that film is, for me, so moving and so incredible, and it's filmed on the docks of Hoboken and classic, you know, 1954 film noir that really set the stage for great performances in Hollywood. Goodfellas, of course, is up there
for sure.
And there's so many films, the Hitchcock films, the Kubrick films. Jaws for me is a top 5 film that impacted my childhood in a big way. And then, another film that I forgot that I love so much, I watched it recently because of the passing of Sean Connery. I grew up watching all the Sean Connery Bond films.
Yeah.
Which really shaped my childhood. But the most influential film that Connery was in that I saw, and it was one of the most influential moments of my childhood, is my father took me. My father should have his head examined for this, and thankfully, him and my mom don't really know how to consume digital media. But my father took me to see The Untouchables in the movie theater in 1987 when I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And if you see The Untouchables, a 9-year-old should not be seeing that in the movie theater, especially one that idolized Sean Connery as James Bond and thought that that character can't die. And if you've seen The Untouchables, we eventually know what happens to the character. So I rewatched it with a full bottle of bourbon, which wasn't full by the end. I must have cried 4 or 5 times going back to my childhood. But that film is made by another great director, Brian De Palma, who I also idolize, and it's a masterpiece. So I know I just rattled off a bunch of shit for you.
Well, I'd say this about me. My father, God rest his soul, every Thanksgiving or holiday, it was like a necessity to watch The Godfather, all of them in one shot, Goodfellas and all this stuff. And I'm like,
Scarface.
is this the kind of movie you play during the holidays? And he was like, This is a history lesson, and you're supposed to understand what's going on. This history lesson, so pay attention because it's 5 hours. I'm like, 5 hours.
Yeah. And
oh my God, this is crazy, But it was at the right time. Maybe I wasn't prepared for it, but it was the right, the right cinema for what we were going through at the time and what we eventually go into. So, I mean, I attest to you in terms of your childhood and your upbringing because I was not voluntarily chosen, but I was kind of like mandated to watch these shows because these are like folklores and movies that are supposed to be part of your childhood and your history.
No, they're part of your fabric, right? Like I remember after I saw The Godfather for the first time, which was I think around 6th or 7th grade.
Yeah,
I couldn't learn enough about the things that were in the film, whether it was the history of New York or the mafia or Italian Americans or whatever it was. And I became this sponge for history and 70s films, Dirty Harry set in San Francisco, The French Connection set in Brooklyn and also in Harlem and in France with Gene Hackman is one of my favorite films. And when my dad would drive us into Borough Park, I was always asking him if that was the subway station where the famous chase scene started. And there are all these things that are woven into our fabric from our upbringing, and films for me is such a big thing. So, Mean Streets and Raging Bull and Taxi Driver, I had a course. I have a drawer full of DVDs that range from Hitchcock stuff of the 50s to Kubrick in the 60s to great 70s films through 2000. So, it's, and people laugh at me like, you still have DVDs? Like, not everything epic you can stream. And there are some stuff that I want to watch. And my father started a film collection when I was a kid. Father's got 3,000 movies in the house.
Dang.
Like, without a catalog system, it's just guesswork at this point. You know what I mean? But it was born on Laserdisc. It was born on video disc. Then it went to VHS and Beta. Then it became DVD. So the favorite film performance question is just, it's so loaded. You walked into a trap there.
So I got a piece of history. Well, I'd say material to show you that I wanted to pay homage to you, but I had to ask you this question first. You got to start, bench, and cut these people. Okay, Larry Bird, Kevin Garnett as a Celtic, Paul Pierce. Who you starting? No. I don't want to hear that shit. No. Start, bench, and cut those 3 players. Go. I had to come up with a question like yours.
I'm gonna start.
That's not fair.
I'm gonna start Bird because by the time I Garnett off bench. He's going to be a burning furnace of fury, and I'm going to cut Pierce because it's going to make him better, just like dropping to 10th in the draft, and it'll ultimately be good.
That was a good picks. Yep.
I was hoping it's different, Eric, because I had a surprise for you. So I have an authentic Celtic, Paul Pierce sign that I wanted to show you at a homage for you, because I know you're a Celtic fan, and my brother's a big.
It's still my guy, though. It's still my guy.
There you go.
To answer your question for real, I'm starting all three of them, and I'm changing.
You can start 5,
and then I'm finishing out. So if you're talking about like the all-time Celtic lineup for me, right? It's those three guys, and then it's
Antoine Walker.
No. I mean,
McHale.
I'm either gonna go big with McHale.
Yeah.
And that's the front line. I mean, all respect in the world to Bill Russell, but Bill Russell is, 6'8" generously. And then I think one of the most underrated Celtics of all time, who you could put in the backcourt with Pierce at the 2, is the late great Dennis Johnson.
Tough.
That guy.
Tough.
Because you don't need another shot creator on that team, even though DJ can do that. You need a clutch player who could defend the other player's best perimeter player, be incredibly clutch, and he's a great player. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a 3-time champ. He won a Finals MVP with the Sonics in the late 70s, and he was one of my favorites as a kid. So Ray Allen, Rondo, like great players. JoJo White, Nate Archibald, who we love from New York. But man, DJ was tough.
DJ was tough.
Solid.
Two-way player. Two-way.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
What else you got? You got one more?
I don't know. Listen, I ran out of my questions. I don't know if BG has any more questions. BG, any more rapid fire questions?
Respectfully, I ran out.
I got one for you guys. Go
ahead.
Who you
asking first?
I'm asking you first, then BG. BG, what neighborhood did you grow up in?
LES, man. Lower East Side.
So Joe first, then BG. Who is your all-time New York City starting 5?
Oh.
Come on, E.
It's not who played for the Knicks or who played for St. John's. They had to play high school and or AAU ball here.
All time.
Or your team. Bring them to the park to beat anybody.
That's tough.
Who's your New York 5?
Bro, come on, E.
Couldn't help myself. Had to flip the switch.
New York Ties in there.
I'm gonna bring Mike Glover as my small forward.
What? I love Mike, respectfully.
What you had before Mike Glover? I'm talking about.
Let him go.
Listen. Okay. All right. Listen. Don't interrupt me. Okay. I'm gonna go pull up.
I'll do my team.
I'm pulling up with Mike Glover. I'm gonna pull up with Kenny Satterfield. I'm gonna pull up with John Strickland. I'm gonna pull up with DP.
I like John Strickland.
And I'm gonna pull up with Keedron Clark. And then if I can bring a sub, and I don't like to use the word sub with this individual specifically, is Dwight Hardy. I just gotta find a place for him. That's it. So I will go Kiki. I will go with Satterfield, Glover. I will go with DP and Strick. And then my reserve would be Dwight Hardy. And I could change anybody else in between that. So I don't mean no.
You ready? I'm going. This is quick. Kenny Anderson, Stephon Marbury.
Yeah, you went all the way back there. Go ahead.
These is legends, man.
I mean, it's an open question.
What I've seen in live. I've
seen that live. Felipe Lopez, Lamar Odom, and Ron Artest.
Okay. So let me change this up. We
Now
got
you
all time. I didn't think Kenny Anderson. I've seen Ron Artest.
Real quick, did you watch the Ron Artest All the Smoke?
I didn't
I
watch.
went to high school, Ron. I went to high school, Ron, in Shamgar. So I seen that live and direct. I thought you meant like.
Did you watch Ron on All the Smoke?
I did it here and there. I haven't finished it
Right,
yet.
do me a favor. Do me a favor. Go to All the Smoke tonight, and just promise me you'll text me or email me afterwards. Go to the 20-minute mark, and just watch him tell the story about wanting to be drafted by the Knicks and what happened. It's the funniest shit you've ever heard in your life. That's all I gotta say.
I'm gonna test to Kenny Anderson. I'm gonna test to Lamar Odom, Stephon. But I will go with more Shamgar for me because I see him Sham more than. And I'm not saying Kenny. Not saying Sham or Kareem is better than the other. I will go with Sham, Kenny, Lamar. I will go with Felipe, of course, and I will go in terms of all time. I will go with I don't know who my big man would be, but I will go with probably who's your big man, BG? Who you said?
I had wrong with them.
And I'll go wrong because I went to high school wrong. So I'll go.
I would have Elton Brand.
I didn't see Elton Brand play in person, but yes,
Elton Brand did a lot of work in New York.
He did. Who's yours, Eric? Since you put me on the spot.
Well, considering I didn't get to watch these guys in person growing up, I was thinking about, the guys that just left their imprint and then went on to do incredible things in the league. So, the guys you mentioned, Joe, I saw all those guys play in different leagues and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you think about the depth of talent that has come from here.
Yeah.
And you think about the Mark Jacksons and Jamal Mashburns and Chris Mullins and Lou Alcindor. So if I'm naming an all-time team, and there were guys that played back in the 50s and the 60s who were unreal. Like, people don't give them enough credit because the game wasn't that athletic back then or whatever. Like, these guys are like a guy like Billy Cunningham, who grew up in Brooklyn, who won championships with the Sixers as a player, the coach was a complete stud. But no, if I'm putting a team together and you're telling me I could have Lou Alcindor, Connie Hawkins, Bernard King, Mash, and Mark Jackson, or any of the guards, there are so many. I was just curious to hear what you guys were going to say.
Damn, you put Monster Mash out.
Great, you put Monster Mash.
I'll never forget walking into the Gauchos and seeing those banners, and you got Marbury, Mashburn, Mullen, Pinckney, Rod Strickland,
Shamgar,
Kimber Walker.
And then, what Lloyd Daniels would have been if somebody had helped keep him on a straight line, and the guy still ends up in the league. So, the greatest high school player I played against was Zendon Hamilton, who ended up at St. John's and in the NBA.
Yep.
And he put 40 plus on us, but we beat him in overtime on a Friday night. And that was quite a memory out in the burbs back in the 90s. So, but I'm so proud to have been able to work in this space and connect with people like yourself and be whatever part of this history and lineage as a storyteller. And I want to tell stories about what the game has meant to New York. And I think we've only scratched the surface. I think there's different ways to do it, different things to be developed, and hopefully over time we can do it. But shout out to New York City basketball, because without it, I don't meet you guys, and I'm not sitting here now being able to work on all these special things I've been able to do. So I greatly appreciate that for sure.
Likewise, Eric, man. So I just wanted, first of all, from myself, I appreciate you coming on tonight. So much history, so much conversation, so much things that were untold kind of came to surface, and I wanted to thank you for sharing that with us, and just want to commend you for the work that you do in terms of the basketball space and allowing us to, even through the pandemic, to provide content for us to, kind of get us through this tough year. And with NBA on the horizon, sometimes we forget what we went through, and then those stories and documentaries and features you put out in terms of on that space allows us to have a getaway. So thank you for that, and I would just want to thank you for sharing some time with me and BG on this new platform that we've decided to kind of give a voice to the voiceless and also give flowers to the ones who deserve it. And people may not know you, I don't know what rock they're living on, but tonight we want to make sure that we give you your flowers, like BG said, and also let the world know that what you're doing and giving back to the culture that gave to you so much. So we thank you and salute you, my brother, for doing God's work.
I appreciate that, guys. That means a lot, and it's been quite a year, and to be able to continue to do the work through this is I'm very fortunate, but I've also been very isolated. So to get to have these conversations and connect, it means a lot. Thank you both, and let's do it again soon. You got to come up with some sort of basketball movie special where we can just plug in on shit. And
no problem.
Definitely.
But I'm gonna hold you to my documentary, so I'm gonna call you off this and catch you off, and maybe when you get off
get the materials together. Just get the materials together.
Say less.
When I get off the KG train, which will hopefully be going for quite a while.
Hey,
sure.
take time on that train because we're ready to pay to watch that ride. So thank you for that, and Eric, have a blessed holiday, man. Be safe. We wish you much success, brother, and anything you need from me and BG or Randy we're just one call away. And we appreciate you, brother. So stay in it, and God bless you and your family, right?
God bless you. Much love.
Peace. Thanks. Thank you too, Randy. Later, fellas.
All right, brother.
Yes. So we just sat with our boy Eric Newman, producer, director, and content creator, and also the executive producer for the new Showtime Basketball Initiative, All the Smoke. So please follow him. And Eric, while we still have you on, the world know where to follow you at on social media so they can stay tuned with you coming up.
Yeah, I got a lot of social media catching up to do. So Instagram, I turned into more of the film side at Enew Films, ENEW Films. And Twitter, I am still at Coach Enew, the original Coach moniker. So Twitter at Coach Enew, Instagram Enew Films. All the Smoke. Catch the audio on iHeart and the Black Effect, and of course the video, Showtime Basketball YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at Showtime Basketball, Showtime Sports, IG at Show Basketball, and at All the Smoke as well. So appreciate that, guys. We got a great lineup coming up during holiday week. Stay tuned for those drops and more in the new year. So I'm gonna go watch some hoop. Appreciate you, fellas.
Yes, sir.
Talk soon.
Love you.
Everybody, please follow Eric Newman on those social media channels. You can follow us on at Commissioner Corner on IG and on Twitter. You can subscribe to the Cruise Control podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple, as well as other social media streams. So we want to salute and thank Eric Newman for coming and spend some time with us before the holiday, and share his success and also his journey through the culture of basketball and providing it to all the lenses that we are able to see now through the likes of Showtime and other platforms. So on behalf of BG, want to close it out?
Yeah. Just man, quickly again, man, just big shout out to Enew, man, for stopping through and showing us all that love and stories and most of all motivation, man. To see where you've come from and to see where he's taken his creativeness to. It's just a testament that anybody can do it. You know what I mean? And don't be boxed in. Don't allow people to just say that, you're stuck in this position that you're in. Understand that you can take whatever talent you have to many levels and many surfaces that you never can imagine. So big shout out to Enew, man, and stay tuned, man. Follow me at BG Mr. LES Express. Follow Joe Cruz at Hoops in the Sun and at J Cruz CEO on Instagram, and just make sure, man, you just following us, man. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and all of our different platforms. Just show us some love, man, and just keep it coming.
No problem. So on behalf of BG, Eric Newman, Randy Cruz, the producer, I am Joe Cruz. Please also subscribe to our website and our social channels, as well as our podcast work on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. On that note, everybody out there have a wonderful and safe holiday season. We will be off next Wednesday. We'll come back in the new year with more content. On that note, if you want to check this interview live again, please click on our YouTube link. On that note, on behalf of BG, Eric Newman, Randy Cruz, we're out of here. Have a safe one. Stay blessed, and thank you for your time.